Hai, Assalamualaikum. Kami daripada grup 2. Malam ni kami ingin membentangkan end of chapter 1, generic skill. Grup ahli kumpulan kita orang ada 6 orang. Pertama Muhammad Fikri Aiman bin Isa. Nama matrik 17 DTK 20 F 2012. Kedua Muhammad Haziq Haikal bin Muhammad Rozi. Nama matrik 17 DTK 20 F 2010. Ya Allah. Nombor 3 Muhammad Luqman Hakim bin Azman. Nama matrik 17 DTK 20 F 2011. Nombor 4 Siti Nobalkish binti Abdul Rashid. Nama matrik 17 DTK 20 F 2008. Nombor 5 Nur Ain Nazira binti Muhammad Saiful. Nama matrik 17 DTK 20 F 2009. Nombor 6 Nur Syuhada binti Rosli. Nama matrik 17 DTK 20 F 2013. Next. First, soalan dia discuss the construction and working principle of the following power meter. A. Wattmeter. Wattmeter is an electric instrument which is used to measure the electric power of various electric circuit. It consists of a current coil and a voltage coil. The instrument are widely used in transmission and distribution of electric power, and these are also used for protection purpose. Next. Diagram wattmeter. Current coil, voltage coil, source R, load. Okay, next. Next. Next is construction and working principle wattmeter. This instrument are used on both AC and DC supply. This wattmeter provide accurate reading only when frequency and supply voltage are constant. This wattmeter consists of two limited electromagnet, and one of them is excited by the current with exciting winding. This winding is connected in series of the circuit. The other magnet is excited by the current which is proportional to the current. The exciting coil is connected in parallel with the circuit. The winding of first magnet carries line current and the other coil carries voltage and is highly inductive. This coil is connected to the supply and the flux leg 900 behind the voltage. The torch is pursued and it proportional to the power in the load circuit. The torch acts on the disc and force of product is the disc. The disc start moving and the pointer is attacked on it with a spring and it show reading on its scale. Thank you.
Okay, next I will explain about kilowatt hour meter. The definition of kilowatt hour meter is energy equal to power multiply time. The unit for kilowatt hour meter kWh. For the function is to measure the quantity electric energy supplied to a circuit in a given time. Okay, we can see the diagram below the function. Okay, next. Okay, next is the more detail about kilowatt hour meter diagram. So we can see the voltage coil, gear train to tires, magnetic brake, rotating aluminium disc, current coil, and copper shading rings. Okay, next. Okay, parts of the operating mechanism in kilowatt hour meter. First, driving system. First, consists to electromagnets, which is series and shunt magnet. Second, the series magnet excited by the load current called as a current coil. Okay, third, the shunt magnet is connected across the supply called as pressure coil. Okay, fourth, pressure coil is excited by a current proportional to the voltage of the circuit to measure. Fifth, two flux induce EMF in the disc which further produce the driving torque and also produce current that produce the driving torque. Okay, the difference between current coil and pressure coil is number turn of coil for pressure coil is more larger than current coil. Okay, next, moving system. Thank you. Hello, boleh dengar tak suara?
Boleh?
Boleh teruskan.
Oh, yang tadi tak dengar?
Tak, moving system tak dengar.
Oh, ya ke?
Kan?
Part
Okay, kan
yang
dah
dengar tak dengar tadi?
next moving system terus kita orang just
Oh tak, movie system Balkis akan sambung.
itu macam ni.
Teruskan.
Okay, Bal. Okay, moving system consists of an aluminium disc mounted on spindle, which is the aluminium disc was positioned in the air gap between series and shunt magnets. Next, the spindle top end is engaged in a bearing cup and the spindle rests and runs on a hardened steel pivot, and threaded portion on top of the spindle will engage a pinion of the recording mechanism. Number 3 is braking system. Permanent magnet positioned near the edge of the aluminium disc forms the braking system. Next, this moves in the gap between the poles and experience an eddy current braking, and the position of permanent magnet is radially adjustable and hence the braking torque can be adjusted. So next, registering system. To record continuously a number which is proportional to the revolutions made by the moving system. For example, as we can see in the diagram, there is 2 diagrams. So next, kilowatt hour operation. Supply voltage is applied across the pressure coil and will produce a flux proportional that induce an eddy current in this. Number 2, load current 1 flow through the current coil and produce flux that produce eddy current in this. Next, it will effect the force that exert on the disc in proportion to the product of the instantaneous current and voltage. Number 4, due to the interaction, driving torque produced on the aluminium disc. causing the pointer connected to moving system to move over scale. Next. First, the coil of series magnet is excited by the load current. This coil is called the current coil. The coil of shunt magnet is connected across the supply. This coil is called the pressure coil. Next.
Second, current coil produces a magnetic flux in proportion to the current, and pressure coil produces magnetic flux proportion to voltage on the disc. This flux induces AC current in the disc. Next. Third, this causes the disc to rotate at a speed proportional to the power being used. The disc is supported by a spindle which has a worm gear which drives the resistor. The resistor is a series of dials which record the amount of energy used. Next. Clammeter. This is diagram for clammeter. Next. Clammeter operation current transformer. When current flow through a conductor, a magnetic field is created around conductor. The bigger the current through circuit conductor, the bigger the magnetic field surrounding that conducting. This is clammeter which type current transformer CT. When measuring current, the subject conductor forms the primary winding and the coil forms the secondary winding. Okay, next we pass to
Next, CT is used as to make a secondary current in its secondary winding, which is corresponding to the primary current. Current primary being measured in its primary winding through a magnetic medium. The current in the circuit moving through it generates its own magnetic field that surrounds the conductor. This AC magnetic field can produce voltage and resulting current flow in the joules of clammeter. At the below is the diagram, the clammeter. This is the diagram clammeter operation, current transformer. The current transformer, CT, is a type of instrument transformer that is designed to produce an alternating current in its secondary winding, which is proportional to the current being measured in its primary. AC clammeters operate on the principle of the current transformer, CT, used to pick up magnetic flux generated as a result of current flowing through a conductor. Assuming a current flowing through a conductor to be the primary current, you can obtain a current proportional to the primary current by an electromagnetic induction from the secondary side winding of the transformer is connected to a measuring circuit of the instrument. This permits related current reading on the clammeter operation, Hall effect sensor. Hall effect clammeters are capable of measuring both DC and AC current. Since the number of turns in the secondary winding is much more than the number of turns in the primary winding wrapped around the core, a very small amount of current is applied to input of the measuring unit. Second, if the number of turns in the secondary winding is 100, then the current produced in the secondary winding is 1/100 of the current that flows through the primary winding. Using this technique, even large currents with clamp meter can easily be measured by increasing the number of turns in the secondary winding. Similar to the current transformer clamp meters, the Hall as in the case of current transformer clamp meters. In the Hall effect clamp meter, the magnetic field induced by the current flowing through the conductor is concentrated in the gaps S, one or more, of the core when the clamps close around the conductor. The gap in the clamp core creates an air pocket where the magnetic field is concentrated when both of the Hall effect clamp meter clamps meet or close. The gap also ensures that the core is not saturated by limiting the magnetic flux. Inside the gap, there is a small semiconductor component known as the Hall effect sensor. This Hall effect sensor is not visible because it is covered by plastic molding. The Hall effect sensor is a special transducer that can vary its output voltage depending on the magnetic field increases or decreases due to current flowing in the conductor. This property This property of the Hall effect sensor is used for measuring current. The voltage produced by the Hall effect sensor for representing the current flowing through the conductor is further amplified and scaled. The Hall effect clamp meter can also measure DC current because the core is also capable of concentrating DC magnetic fields. However, these clamp meters need to be zeroed when measuring the current to prevent the presence of errors due to Earth's magnetic field or any other source of magnetic field in the vicinity.
Okay, next, look at the diagram. The clamp-o-meter, the current to be measured, magnetic field, and circling the current carrying the conductor. So next. So the diagram, get the sensor, the thin lines of flux around the conductor, Hall effect sensor, wire are magnetically permeable core, signal conditioner, 420 mA, low power. So next. So that's how to measure AC current using clamp meter. First, set the selector switch to AC range. Second, press the jaw trigger and clamp around, fully enclosing a single conductor. 3. Take a measurement at the center of the core of the clamp precision to minimize measuring error. And 4. Read the AC current value on the LCD display. So diagram below, simply clamp under connector for current measurement, current for supply, clamp meters for loads. So next, the advantage of clamp meter. First, measure live electrical reading, which hides accuracy and it don't disrupt the operation of appliance being tested. Second, has higher safety because it reads current without having a cut through wires. 3. quicker testing device and more efficient way of getting information on electrical current. So itu saja untuk gurau kami tentang present generate skill. So thank you.